This temple was built before farming. So who built it? The words are not just a question. They are a rupture in the story of humanity, a crack in the timeline we thought was solid. For centuries, we've told ourselves a neat tale. Hunter-gatherers wandered the earth. Then they learned to farm. Then they built villages. Then cities. Then temples. But here, on a lonely ridge in southeastern Turkey, that story collapses. Göbekli Tepe is the evidence that refuses to fit. Imagine the world 12,000 years ago. No wheat fields waving in the wind. No domesticated animals grazing in pens. No cities rising from the earth. Just small bands of hunter-gatherers roaming the hills, carrying spears, foraging, surviving. They gather around fires. They tell stories. They carve tools from stone. And yet, on this ridge, they raise pillars taller than men, heavier than cars, carved with animals so vivid they seem alive. This isn't supposed to exist, and yet it does. The shock is immediate. A temple built before farming. A monument raised before villages. A mystery carved into stone before writing itself existed. It's like finding a smartphone in a medieval castle. A piece of technology out of time, impossible and undeniable. Picture the barren ridge. The wind sweeps across the hills. The sun burns down on the soil. Beneath the earth, hidden for millennia, circles of stone pillars wait. Each pillar carved with lions, vultures, snakes, boars, each arranged with precision, aligned with purpose. This is not chaos. This is not chance. This is design. And yet, the builders vanish. No cities remain. No villages surround the temple. No evidence of farming, no granaries, no fields. Just the temple itself, standing alone, like a message from the past that no one can fully read. The discovery forces us to ask, who were these people? How did they organize? How did they carve and move stones weighing tons without wheels? Without beasts of burden? Without farming to anchor them in place? The questions pile up, each one heavier than the stones themselves. Civilization's timeline is the suspect. Göbekli Tepe is the evidence. And you, the audience, are the jury. What really happened here? What does this temple mean? 12,000 years ago, before the wheel, before writing, before farming, someone built a temple. Not a hut, not a campfire, a temple. And when archaeologists uncovered it, they realized history was wrong. The shock is not just in the stones, but in the implications. If hunter-gatherers could build this, then maybe they weren't as primitive as we thought. Maybe the neat story of progress is wrong. Maybe civilization didn't begin with farming at all. Maybe it began with belief, with ritual, with a desire to gather and worship. Imagine the builders. They are not farmers. They are not city dwellers. They are hunters, gatherers, wanderers. And yet they come together, hundreds of them, to carve, to lift, to arrange. They gather not to plant seeds, but to raise pillars. They gather not to harvest crops, but to worship something greater. The temple is not just stone. It is a statement, a declaration, a message across time. We were here, and we believed. The carvings are not random. Lions, vultures, snakes, boars, each animal chosen, each symbol deliberate. The temple is alive with meaning, a language we cannot fully read. It is a book written in stone, a story told in carvings, a mystery that refuses to be solved. And then, the temple is buried, deliberately, covered with earth, hidden from sight. Why? Was it ritual? Was it protection? Was it abandonment? The questions remain unanswered. The hook is not just the temple itself, but the mystery it represents. Civilization's neat timeline is gone. In its place, a puzzle that refuses to fit. This is the moment where everything you thought you knew about the past is shattered. The neat story of progress is gone. In its place, a mystery that refuses to be solved. Stick around, because what you're about to see will rewrite everything you thought you knew about history. The ridge looks ordinary. Dry grass bends in the wind. The horizon shimmers with heat, and the land seems empty. For centuries, shepherds and farmers walked across it without suspecting what lay beneath. Then, in the 1990s, a farmer's plow struck stone. Not just any stone, but something carved, deliberate, ancient. That moment set off a chain of events that would rewrite the story of civilization. When German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt arrived in 1994, he saw fragments of carved limestone scattered across the hill. At first glance, they looked like ordinary rocks. But Schmidt recognized something extraordinary. These were not natural formations. They were pillars shaped by human hands, decorated with reliefs of animals. He realized instantly that this was no ordinary site. This was monumental architecture, but built in 9600 BCE, thousands of years before humans were supposed to have the tools, organization, or reason to build temples. Imagine the shock. Hunter-gatherers, supposedly primitive, carving 20-foot pillars weighing tons, arranging them in circles, decorating them with lions, vultures, snakes, and boars. It was like finding a skyscraper in the Stone Age. The excavation began slowly, carefully. Archaeologists brushed away soil, revealing the tops of T-shaped pillars. Each pillar was massive, some weighing as much as 10 tons. They were arranged in circles, with 2 central pillars towering above the rest. Around them, smaller pillars stood like silent witnesses. The carvings were vivid, animals in motion, predators and prey, symbols of power and fear. The deeper they dug, the stranger it became. Layer after layer revealed more circles, more pillars, more carvings. The site was vast, sprawling across the ridge. And yet, there were no houses, no villages, no signs of farming. Just the temple itself, standing alone. The discovery was not just archaeological. It was philosophical. It forced scholars to rethink the very definition of civilization. If hunter-gatherers could build this, then maybe they weren't as primitive as we thought. Maybe belief came before farming. Maybe ritual came before settlement. Maybe the desire to worship was the spark that lit the fire of civilization. The site itself seemed alive. The carvings were not random. Lions, vultures, snakes, boars, each animal chosen, each symbol deliberate. The temple was a book written in stone, a story told in carvings, a language we cannot fully read. And then came the strangest detail of all. The temple was buried, deliberately, covered with earth, hidden from sight. Why? Was it ritual? Was it protection? Was it abandonment? The questions remain unanswered. The discovery spread quickly. Newspapers called it the world's first temple. Scholars debated its meaning. Tourists flocked to see it. UNESCO declared it a World Heritage Site. Göbekli Tepe became a symbol of mystery, a reminder that history is not as simple as we thought. But the mystery deepened. How did they move the stones? How did they carve them with such precision? How did they organize hundreds of people without farming to anchor them in place? The questions piled up, each one heavier than the stones themselves. The ridge that once seemed ordinary became extraordinary. The barren hill became the birthplace of a mystery. The farmer's plow became the trigger that shattered history. And Klaus Schmidt became the detective who uncovered the crime scene of civilization. The discovery is not just about stones. It is about us. It forces us to ask who we are, where we came from, and what we believe. It forces us to admit that the story of civilization is not neat, not linear, not simple. It is messy, mysterious, and full of surprises. Göbekli Tepe is not just a temple. It is a question carved in stone, a question that refuses to be answered, a question that echoes across time. Who built this and why? If you're fascinated already, hit subscribe, because the deeper we dig, the stranger it gets. The deeper archaeologists uncovered Göbekli Tepe, the more it seemed to defy logic. It wasn't just the size of the stones or the carvings that unsettled them. It was the contradictions. Everything about the site clashed with what we thought we knew. Civilization was supposed to begin with farming. Yet here was a temple built before farming. Religion was supposed to follow settlement. Yet here was worship before villages. Organization was supposed to grow from agriculture. Yet here was cooperation without crops. Göbekli Tepe was not just old. It was out of place, a puzzle piece that didn't belong to the picture we had drawn. Theories began to swirl. Some scholars argued it was proof that belief came first. That ritual was the glue that bound people together long before farming. Others suggested it was a seasonal gathering place, where scattered tribes met to share stories, hunt together, and carve their myths into stone. A few whispered of lost civilizations, cultures erased by time, leaving only this temple as a trace. And then there were the more radical voices, hinting at cosmic alignments, star maps, even visitors from beyond. The carvings themselves seemed to invite speculation. Lions, vultures, snakes, Boars, animals chosen with care, symbols carved with meaning. Were they guardians? Were they warnings? Were they part of a myth we no longer know? Some researchers saw constellations hidden in the reliefs, a prehistoric sky chart etched into stone. Others saw rituals of death and rebirth, a place where hunter-gatherers confronted mortality and sought meaning. And then, the deliberate burial. The temple wasn't destroyed by nature. It was covered by human hands. Why would anyone hide something so monumental? Was it a ritual of closure, a way of sealing the sacred? Was it fear, an attempt to bury power too great to control? Or was it simply abandonment, the end of an era we cannot see? Göbekli Tepe is not just a mystery of construction. It is a mystery of intention. It forces us to ask not only how it was built, but why. Why here? Why then? Why at all? The site is a contradiction carved in stone. It is a reminder that history is not a straight line, but a maze, full of dead ends and hidden passages. It is a reminder that the past is not neat, not simple, not solved. And perhaps that is the point. Perhaps Göbekli Tepe was meant to be a question, not an answer. A riddle left for us to ponder, a challenge across time. Comment below, what's your theory? Was Göbekli Tepe the spark of civilization, a forgotten culture, or something far more mysterious? The stones of Göbekli Tepe stand silent, but their silence is not empty. It is heavy, charged, alive with questions. They are not just relics of the past. They are provocations, daring us to rethink what we know. Civilization was supposed to be a straight line, survival, farming, villages, cities, temples. But Göbekli Tepe bends that line into a circle, reminding us that belief, ritual, and imagination may have been the true foundations of society. The pillars are not just architecture. They are evidence of something deeper, the human need to gather, to create meaning, to reach beyond survival. And that is the real mystery. Not simply who built it, but why humanity felt compelled to build it all. Why, in a world of scarcity and danger, did people choose to carve symbols into stone? Why did they choose to raise monuments that would outlast them? The answers may never come, but the questions themselves are powerful. Göbekli Tepe is more than a site. It is a mirror. It reflects our own hunger for meaning, our own drive to connect, our own desire to leave something behind. It tells us that civilization is not just about tools and crops, but about imagination and belief. Perhaps that is the lesson, that the spark of civilization was not farming, but faith, not survival, but story, not necessity, but vision. And so the temple remains, buried for millennia, uncovered in our time. Still asking, what else have we missed? What other mysteries lie beneath the soil, waiting to remind us that history is not finished, that the past is still speaking? Share this video with someone who loves mysteries. Because the more people ask questions, the closer we get to answers.